Howdy fluffbutts, it's me, FaolanCortez Colt. It's the series you all know and love. Now, when I said I was underestimating y'all previously, I meant don't murder me with double the amount of likes! You kicked the goal in the balls and now it won't recover. If you guys want to play that way, get this. If you want to see a review made on the next episode, Swarm of the Century, give this video 15 likes. Achieve that goal and that review will be yours. Before we get into this video, I'd like to announce something real quick. I've got a Patreon! Ta-da! This has been lurking in the dark for a few months, and now I've officially launched it. Ever since I reached 1,000 subscribers, I have been striving to create more and more videos every week, and I cannot do that without your help, fluffbutts. As I start off small with 3 tiers that could cost you up to just £2 a month, you will be able to gain exclusive access to early 24-hour video releases, polls of what I should be making next, personal messages sent to you from me, and even requesting a video for me to make. If you wish to support me on my YouTube journey, go become a fluffbutt to help support me in making these fantastic videos more consistently. Thank you so much, everyone. And now, without further ado, let's start this review. Welcome guys to a brand new edition of the Yay or Nay series. This will be something different from my usual reviews on my channel. May I introduce something I like to call Harmonizing the Hated. Inspired by the amazing HARBO WHOLMES, whom I commissioned for his A New Generation review by the way. Check it out, it's fucking awesome. This series is going to be about focusing on giving the episodes in MOP that gained a negative reception from fans a second chance. It's undeniable that every season has a handful of despised episodes. Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep, One Bad Apple, Parental Guidance, Spike at Your Service, and The Showstoppers. As we chronologically make our way through the season, we shall see if these kinds of episodes deserve this forgiving treatment to find out if they're actually good.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
To kick off the start of this new series, we will turn to the infamous 9th episode of Season 1, Bridle Gossip, whose reputation precedes it for its supposed undertones of being racist?
What?
Whenever this episode is brought up, a lot of people turn away from it for it having an underdeveloped story with a handful of badly handled aspects concerning characters and the story's resolution. However, I fail to agree with what fans of the show say critically about this episode. Bridle Gossip is absurdly overlooked. Written by Amy Keating Rogers, who has a reputation for writing mediocre stories, Bridle Gossip is all about the main 6 encountering a mysterious figure called Zecora, who seemingly acts strangely within Ponyville, so they pursue her into the Everfree Forest, resulting in hilarious consequences.
This is hilarious!
What if I told you that this episode is mostly misunderstood for the way it displays its greatly influential message about tolerance and the fact that this episode is practically a necessity to watch for any viewer?
Go on.
Well, it's time to find out. Take a stroll through the forest and grab your poisonous houseplant, because it's time to defend Bridle Gossip. Welcome to Harmonizing the Hated. Being 8 episodes into the first season, there's the idea that the show has had a steady but slightly rocky start. My Little Pony needed a real good and relatable story to show its true potential for more immersive, or in this case, darker episodes. Whenever someone wishes for an episode that could be seen as somewhat mature for its audience, I immediately point to Bridle Gossip. Sure, I could probably point people towards Pinky's mental deterioration in Party of One, or the fierce confrontation with the cockatrice in Stairmaster, but I firmly believe none of those hold up to the creepy ambiance that Bridle Gossip builds up. This episode is one of the most visually appealing in Season 1 too. The narrative path it goes to show us a possibility that Equestria isn't all smiles and rainbows deserves the respect it hardly gets. I can't forget about this episode's native appeal when Zecora gets introduced and she is represented wonderfully.
Maybe next time you will take a second look and not judge the cover of the book.
Speaking of our black and white roosts, straight up, Zecora is a fantastic addition to the show. Zecora is, by all accounts, misunderstood by the pony folk. at least initially. Her endless rhyming couplets and knowledge of magical alignments are such a fascinating aspect of her character, and I personally think it's a gigantic disappointment that Hasbro weren't keen on entertaining the idea of an episode exploring Zecora's past. I guess you could say they didn't want to get racist, huh?
What's the big deal, cheapskate?
She was designed to be a mentor to our heroes, but some fans nickname her as a convenience keeper. That's not the point of her characterization. In all honesty, Spike would fit more correctly in that argument since he has an appearance in almost every episode and is always surrounded by his favorite peers. Zecora, however, is featured when an episode directly involves her as an integral part of the story. And yeah, Bridle Gossip perfectly fits that bill. But will it pay off well enough? Let's have a look. The opening of Bridle Gossip has to be one of my absolute favourites in the first season. We see Twilight and Spike strolling through Ponyville on a seemingly normal day before they find that the town has been completely deserted. I love this change of tone in the show. We've seen the town in the last 8 episodes fully packed and having a joyful sense of harmony. Then to see it in this silent and unoccupied state within seconds of watching is a great gut punch to the audience. When Spike and Twilight go back and forth on their suspicions, making up silly assumptions, it gives the situation realism to believe in, as if we would ask similar questions too in this state of events.
Is it some sort of pony holiday? Not that I know of. Is it zombies? Not very likely. Not likely.
Plus, that musical drop in the score strengthens the vibrant yet vacant spirit of this scene, giving it a flair of isolation.
What? Where is every pony?
Thankfully, Pinkie Pie calls the pair of them into the sugar cube corner to grimly reveal the reason why every pony is gone. From afar, Zecora is first seen digging at the ground like a magpie. You see her as this hooded figure that generally looks untrustworthy in the eyes of youngsters, with her dark colors contrasting with the brightness of the horizon in a long shot. The antics end with a tense slow close-up on her face before revealing
Horrible yellow eyes!
To grown-ups, this moment may seem a little mocked and cliched to an extent where it's not scary and ends up as unnecessarily funny. But with the general seriousness of the show in mind, I can sympathize with a kid's perception of this ending more. Being a man-child myself, I adore this moment. Zecora's quick head movement with the exposure of her demonic yellow eyes makes for a little jump scare. Even the frightened reactions of the main 6 afterwards were expected for a horrible sight. However, I find it a bit strange how Zecora is shown to have yellow eyes here, only to find out later that she has blue eyes. It makes this dramatic reveal seem shoehorned in for the sake of a cheap fright. What was the point? With every pony assembled in the cake shop, here's when one of the most common criticisms of this episode emerges, where fans think the main 6's behavior gets extremely annoying as they over-embellish their claims on Zecora. Pinkie's Evil Enchantress song intermission also seems to get on people's nerves. I can agree with some of these points, and some others I just can't. First, let's address the confusing anxiety that the main 6 expel. They individually deliver accusing lines about Zecora for what they each think she does when she comes to town, before Twilight fires back to try and understand why.
Glance evilly this way. She's mysterious, sinister, and spooky.
In a conflicting sense, both parties are in the right. Here's why. Being a royally educated pony from Canterlot and once secluding herself in an ivory tower before being transferred to Ponyville, Twilight Sparkle has a healthy slice of doubt. She is a character who has a passion in challenging people's beliefs to tolerate them or, you know, change their minds. It's a lovely touch to further exhibit that development of hers when she attempts to knock some insight into her friends' heads.
Well, I saw her glance this way, and then a bunch of you flip out for no good reason. And her stripes aren't a fashion choice rarity, they're what she was born with.
Plus, I think it's funny that Twilight mocks her friends too in the heat of the moment.
Ooh, oh my. Good gracious!
Now on to Twilight's friends with their apparent fear of Zecora. Applejack, Fluttershy, Rarity, Pinkie, and Rainbow each have their own reasons why they are nervous about Zecora. With how much they put on Twilight's discernment plate, they are easy to emphasize with. It's said that the zebra has monthly appearances in Ponyville, which gave me one extra reason why I can understand the sudden desertion of the town.
Once a month, she comes into Ponyville. She lurks by the stores. She digs at the ground.
Can you imagine a shadowy figure coming into your neighborhood to do things that don't locally appeal to those you know? Of course you would want to be a bit suspicious. It's only logical they would react this way, as it's all they have ever known about Zecora for how many months they've had to experience this paranoia. Remember, Twilight was never around, and Princess Celestia would obviously be busy with her own duties. I also love that they bring up where Zecora lives.
The Everfree Forest!
With the recollection of what AJ said about the forest in Friendship is Magic Part 2, we also learn it's a self-preserving environment that is almost alien to Ponyville.
Plants grow, animals care for themselves, and the clouds move all on their own.
It helps build that mystifying aura the location has, making it a perfect choice of setting for the second half of the episode. It's just the way they assert themselves in this scene that bothers me. They aren't over-embellishing, they're overacting. It only makes their fear on screen seem accidentally hilarious when they attempt to make Twilight see sense.
Well, I heard that Zecora eats hay.
Pinky, I eat hay. You eat hay.
Yeah, but I heard it's the evil way she eats hay.
Haha, no wonder Twilight can't take you lot seriously. Which takes us to the evil enchantress song that Pinky brings out of nowhere. She goes on a crazy squabble singing about her accusations in the only way she is able to communicate.
She's an evil enchantress, she does evil dances, and if you look deep in her eyes, she'll put you in trances.
This song is actually clever. Musically. The song is full of the common Pinkie Pie motifs that were featured in her previous two songs, with the comedic lyrics and the rhythm bouncing around wildly. The key signature is also a welcoming modification from the others. All of these altered melodic elements help give this section in the cake shop commendation, and people find this annoying? The first time it gets sung isn't annoying in the slightest, although it gets sung one too many times throughout the episode, and the brilliance of it is gradually reduced into repetitiveness.
Evil enchantress with the dances and the trances.
There's just no need for that. Only feature the song once or twice so that Pinky doesn't sound like a humdrum parrot on crack. One of the most underrated parts of the story is the inclusion of Applebloom, Applejack's younger sister. Unlike all of the scared grown-up ponies that stray away from Zecora, the phlegmatic youngster is determined to try and prove every pony wrong about the zebra by going outside. We last saw Applebloom merely being in the background of Friendship is Magic Part 1 and Dragonshy, so I believe it's a wonderful opportunity to give this minor some proper character building. Applebloom is fittingly moralistic. One small open-minded child within a group of big people who share similar segregated views on an individual who they think is bad and is unnatural with the way they generally behave whenever they encounter them. It eventually comes down to that kid adapting to a different way of learning about those types of people in order to correctly understand them.
Maybe she's just trying to be neighborly. Every pony likes to shop.
Applebloom isn't wrong to go against the grain, especially when her older bigoted peers attempt to forcefully reject her opinions on Zecora.
You know what I think?
Hush and let the big ponies talk.
Did you see Zecora?
I told you never to say that name.
Fear of a name only increases fear of the thing itself.
It's incredibly ironic too when Twilight soon adapts to those beliefs of her friends, believing that they got cursed by Zecora at the end, and Applebloom is the one saving the day because she was the only person who was brave enough to say,
Fuck off!
And
I'm about to end these mayor's careers!
the main six soon realize that Applebloom is gone and chose to go after Zecora, so they follow her into the Everfree Forest. Out of all the scenes in the episode, this is the most unfulfilling. It's edited horribly. With how much prolonged emphasis is applied to the poison joke flowers, it was plainly obvious that they were going to be important to the story. Why would there be this much poison joke in one location? I had a groan, feeling like this scene's visuals could have been improved on by having an array of different flowers be with the poison joke. This could have added a better sense of mystery by going into the forest blindly again and speculating what could have been the cause behind their conditions later on, but instead they just shove it right in our faces.
Look here! I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Not to mention that this entire sequence of conversations is filled to the brim with continuity errors. First, AJ is not standing in the flowers when she picks up Applebloom. In the next shot, her hoofs are blanketed with them. Then, literally 2 shots later, there's absolutely none to be seen.
You guys, there's no such thing as curses.
Well, that's interesting to hear coming from Miss Magic Pants herself.
Oh, and Rainbow Dash continues to be the most dislikable character this season.
Shoo, just go, just get.
Luckily, the previous scene is saved with the nightmare that Twilight experiences that night. The desaturation brings a feel of uneasiness to display how much she was flooded with her friend's accusations on Zecora. It's shot from the side of Twilight's bed instead of above until that iconic zoom on Zecora's evil face comes right at you. Just like her face twist from earlier, it's quick and unexpected, meant to put you on edge, and it certainly did the first time I watched the episode. Twilight and her friends wake up the next day all muddled up and physically distorted because of the effects of the poison joke. Some people criticize the moment when Twilight wakes up as she uses her magic and we see that her horn was reduced to being nothing but a limp member.
Or she cursed my horn!
Kill it with fire!
If you think about it, this argument can be easily resolved with some real-life science. Zecora later compares the poison joke to its actual counterpart.
That plant is much like poison oak.
Comparing both effects of joke and oak, they are undoubtedly similar in symptoms and appearance. It takes poison oak around half a day to start showing any reactions on your skin, which is why I like to believe that when Twilight uses her magic to comb her hair the next day, the effects immediately flare up as if a person just noticed a rash and instinctively started to itch it. It results in a comedy gold sequence when Spike rambles on how funny these circumstances must be to him, even going so far to throw quick-fire nicknames for how altered the main six are.
We got Harity, Rainbow Crash, Spitty Pie, Apple Teeny, Flutter Guy, and...
Not to forget that he also casually addresses the viewer when he's confused about naming Twilight.
Twilight Sparkle. I mean, seriously, I can't even work with that.
That distinct close-up on Twilight's floppiness was just the cherry on top and how secretly adult this scene can be.
The accumulation of evidence is overwhelming!
While every pony is scrambling around for answers, Apple Bloom is still left discreetly in the background, feeling shame for her actions. First, she was seen as boastful to try and prove her sister and friends wrong about Zecora by going out to follow her, but now Apple Bloom has a cloud of regret looming over her head, witnessing all of the people that she believes she got infected from the zebra.
This is all my fault. If I hadn't followed Zecora in the first place, none of this would have happened.
While this is merely just a red herring to throw us off track from the actual cause, which we already painfully know about, it's admirable how Apple Bloom continues to thrive in the episode. She blames herself and wants nothing but to try and find a solution to how she can cure the curse.
I just gotta fix this.
The youngster's determination puts a spotlight on the viewers as if they were about the same age as her. It excellently symbolizes how much the younger generations wish to make more of a difference instead of the old who dwell on the issue at hand before waiting until the very last moment. It also makes Apple Bloom's main appearance in Call of the Cutie magnificent, how that exact determination of hers works in the story's favor when she attempts to get her cutie mark so early on.
My unique talent must have something to do with apples. Apples, apples, apples!
Kids these days, am I right? Now, I know I have been praising Bridle Gossip up until this point, but arguably, this forest section when everybody heads inside to find Zecora's home is a bit of a jumbled mess. The story follows Apple Bloom wandering into the Everfree Forest before she discovers that her shrunken sister has been pursuing her.
Turn around right now, Missy! No!
There's no doubt that Apple Bloom putting Applejack in her place by outright giving her the backhoofed response and stranding her on a tree branch was satisfying. It gives Apple Bloom that extra tidbit of confidence and independence.
Sorry, Applejack, but I'm the big sister now.
Yet, this decision, in hindsight, is flawed. If Apple Bloom was shown to be this careful character at the start, why would she resort to abandoning her tiny sister in the middle of a forest that was feared by nearly every resident in Ponyville? What if no one came to Applejack's aid? You could say that she could just simply jump across, but when you observe the perspective of the gap between the two sisters, it's clearly quite the distance. And no, don't bother bringing up that tiny lasso too. Was she carrying that around with her? Did that get affected by the poison joke as well? Thankfully, the main six managed to somehow find Zecora's hut, and the first sight of it is glorious. The quick zoom out from the mast to a full-blown outside view of the hut lets a haunting suspicion settle into this wide shot. Like I said before, the native appeal is a major aspect of Zecora and her setting, the intrigue of the African mass strewn about in and out, the typical massive bubbling cauldron indicating ritualism, Zecora's tribal jewelry, and even her way of speaking with mock Swahili.
The perfect temperature for ponies, I presume. Where is that little apple bloom?
Shouldn't have said that.
People tend to criticize this portion of the episode for how the lack of subtlety lets the aesthetic down. That's kind of the point. It's nothing new, sure, but it's a unique twist on the usual concept we've seen many times before. Plus, Zecora is a character that sticks around instead of being a one-off.
Please, forgive my strange elation.
But then we get this.
She's an evil enchantress and she does evil dances.
Remember what I said about featuring her song once or twice? Literally, Pinky and Fluttershy singing it should have been the only times it gets sung. That would have made a more memorable impression on the episode instead of it being annoying, because the way the unbothered Flutter guy repeats it is ridiculously funny.
Then she'll gobble you up in a big tasty stew. So, watch out.
The story culminates inside Zecora's hut, and it ends in a thrilling confrontation. The explosion of action, with Rainbow Dash making a ruckus, smashing Zecora's valuables, and AJ feebly trying to choke her ear, was great to show how little care they all display towards the zebra. The energetic music helps sell the intensity of their entrances before it drops horrifically, like at the beginning when the cauldron tips over, spilling the cure.
No! You know not what you do!
Of course, the main six couldn't care less about the substance in the pot because their heads have finally settled on a solid opinion on Zecora.
You made me look ridiculous.
You made me sound ridiculous.
You ruined my horn!
Why did you do that to me?
The amount of swift panning from the camera towards each pony and the Dutch angled close-ups on Zecora's face does indeed exhibit her villainously, intending to put the viewer in a distorted position.
It is unwise to venture down this road.
Right before the situation was about to get fiercer, Apple Bloom just waddles in like it's no big deal. This juxtaposition is marvelous to show the contrast between the understanding laughter from Zecora and Apple Bloom and the flabbergasted confusion from our main characters.
Did those silly feelies finally get in your head?
If you will remember back, the words I spoke were quite exact.
The explanation that we've wished for since the beginning of the episode gets told to us through flashbacks. Honestly, this is another slip-up. Apart from being informed what the plant is called,
It's called Poison Joke.
This plant does not breed wrath. Instead, this plant just wants a laugh.
I felt like these flashbacks thrown in for the intention of dragging out this ending's runtime were silly. However, there is another side to this coin. When Zecora is the one delivering the exposition, it's really welcoming. It was riveting to see the zebra take center stage and gradually push reality back into the main six's heads.
Treasures of the native land where I am from. This one speaks hello, and this welcome. The words I chanted were from olden times.
I was also smiling from the main six asking more and more questions about Zecora as they slowly open up to her. It's such a realistic reaction to anything that you might have wrongly misunderstood.
What book has this natural remedy?
Here is the book, you see? Sad that you lack it in your library.
Actually, I do have this book, but I didn't look inside because the title was so weird.
Sit down. Be humble.
This moment was intensely humbling for Twilight Sparkle, as it turns out her arbitrary skepticism was blocking her from finding out the truth. It's like that famous quote, "Don't judge a book by its cover." It's still something that is largely relevant to this day, and comparing 2011 11 years on, I feel like this episode works more effectively now than it did before. It may not be an original idea as it once was, but here's the thing. It's timeless. The world will always have its issues and problems concerning the more segregated sectors of life, but whenever this precept is brought up, it brings a smile to my face. It provides me with a glimmer of hope that more individuals will soon learn more about this single topic and spread the message that the more we love and respect each other, regardless of shape, color, or species, the better we will get along. Which is why the epilogue of this episode is very fitting, with them all just hanging out in the spa and finally getting the cure that they deserve. There is something to love moralistically about Bridle Gossip, and it is, without a doubt, one of the more mature episodes of Season 1 as a whole. The introduction of such a fascinating side character that would turn out to be a loyal friend to our heroes, and an interesting story that can feel relatable to our own world to an astonishing degree, makes this episode more ambitious than previous ones. There are also a handful of comedic moments that have worked better than other attempts of humor than the episodes that came before. I can officially say that Bridle Gossip doesn't deserve the hate. This episode is a definite standout, especially within the first 10, although there are a couple of badly edited scenes that show how lazy the production team can be, not to mention that they don't know when to stop Pinky having sugar crazies every few minutes. It feels tacked on to an already mysterious and creepy episode, as it only spoils the tension when it was most appropriate. The first season may have been an almost experimental phase for the show to find out what works and what doesn't, but I can feel safe in the knowledge that Bridle Gossip was one of those successes. It rightfully deserves a second chance. I award Bridle Gossip a yay and a 7 out of 10. This choice may spark some bridges to any of you currently watching and weren't that relatable on this episode, but I'm very happy to say that Bridle Gossip earns a B rank on the Season 1 tier list. However, for Swarm of the Century, I don't think I'm going to like it as much as I did with this one.
It'll be a total disaster!
She's a few apples short of a bushel.
Oh dearie me. Remember, fluffbutts, give this video 15 likes and it will be created. Oof, wow, that does just about it for my 9th MLP review, everyone. I honestly hope you enjoyed the first Harmonizing the Hated, and I can't wait for even more. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more exciting content coming soon. Also, go ahead and check out my Patreon page if you wish to assist me in making more of these videos in the future. And I shall see you all very soon. Goodbye!